Ray Orb is the president of the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities and one of the people to contribute with recommendations on this report. Ray, do you think that these recommendations meet some of the concerns that we see in rural Saskatchewan?
They definitely meet some of the recommendations that we put forward. Many of the things that are in it are things that we actually requested, as far as working with the RCMP. We had asked for greater visibility and more officers. That appears that the visibility side of it might increase. We're not sure if there'll be actually more officers that are on the ground. They're looking at kind of reevaluating what they do. So overall, we're quite pleased with the report.
A lot of the concern has come from people who live in rural communities that the response time isn't good enough, and it stands to reason that if you have more officers, you would be able to offer quicker response times. Is that your feeling, that that might be a missing piece of this puzzle?
Well, obviously, having more officers would cut down the response time, and it is something that we asked for. But the explanation that we were given this morning that there might be a more effective way to do that with perhaps almost the same amount of officers would be. We've been listening to this, and we'd be quite, interested in sitting down and talking about this more with both the Ministry of Justice and the RCMP.
So you're not ruling out pushing for more officers in the future?
We're pushing for more officers. We've met, quite a few times with Minister Goodale. We're actually going to be meeting with Minister Goodale again on Thursday, and we're going to be reiterating our concern about the RCMP, about the vacancies in Saskatchewan, especially in the rural area. And we're going to be asking the minister what he intends and what the Liberal government intends to do as far as the shortages of the RCMP. And the problem is, there are a lot of members that are off at any time as well that are not taken into account of sick leave, maternity, disability, things like that. And so it's a concern, and we've been asking the RCMP to work with us on a more local basis. And in the meantime, and I think that's been quite effective so far.
What are you hearing from your members as far as rural safety goes? Is it getting worse or better?
Well, we haven't heard much basically since our last convention. We get phone calls from time to time about concerns about RCMP coverage, but I think this fall our midterm convention will be discussing that again. Assistant Commissioner Zablocki has indicated that he will attend our convention. We've put him on the agenda, and we're going to be setting some time for him to be able to sit down to talk to us about the task force and as far as what the RCMP can do. So I think we'll be hearing a lot more from our members at that point in November.
Is there anything that you encourage our farm community to do to maintain their own safety and be vigilant on their own terms?
Yeah, well, part of it, I think, is the surveillance, and that was touched on this morning. And I think we're going to be sitting down with Innovation Saskatchewan. We're going to be likely talking about some of the innovative ways that perhaps farmers can do better surveillance on their farm. I know there are a lot of companies in Canada, in Saskatchewan, that are interested in doing surveillance and showing us and our members how they can better protect themselves with surveillance. And that is attributed, I think, to better communications. One weak spot, however, in Saskatchewan, to be able to run all of the apps on cell phones or iPads or computers, you do need high-speed internet or good cell phone coverage. And there are places in the province that we don't have that. That is slowly improving. The province and the federal government, I think, have been listening to us and our lobby on that. So I think we'll just keep pursuing that end of it.
How is your relationship with the FSIN?
The FSIN is, and our relationship right now is a bit weak. We have been in contact at our convention in March, and that basically has been the only contact we have had with, as far as Chief Cameron. I have his cell phone number, and I have text. We were texting each other, and I texted him a couple of weeks ago and asked, and I didn't get a response. So I know Chief Cameron is busy, but at some point, and we did in the past, we were able to sit down in our SARM board office and talk about some of the issues. So I'm hoping we can do that again before the midterm convention.
Why do you think the relationship is weak?
Well, there was, the FSN did take issue with the resolution that was passed at our convention, and they felt it was targeted at them.
Tell us about the resolution.
That wasn't the case at all. The resolution was asking SARM to lobby both senior levels of government for more property rights as far as protecting their property. And both ministers' response was that they didn't feel that we needed to go any further protecting our personal property. So our avenue, I guess, to try and solve that problem would be is to work with the Ministry of Justice, both federally and provincially, and the RCMP, to make our police force more effective. Those were addressed, I think, in some of the recommendations today. One issue that we're looking at right now is the revitalization of Rural Crime Watch, and we have 22 RMs now since the March convention that have joined into Rural Crime Watch, and so we're actually interested in looking at perhaps with the RCMP looking at some kind of an association, Rural Crime Watch Association. It seems to make sense. That's something that SARM would be interested in being a stakeholder in part of that development. And so we're looking at these programs to make them more effective, as well as looking at Innovation Saskatchewan and looking at the surveillance side of it. And I think if all of these things are combined, one of the things we need to do, obviously, is to be able to sit down with our council members and to talk about some of these issues. But as far as the issues out there in rural Saskatchewan, we hear about at our convention, and they come in the form of resolutions.
Thanks for your time today, Ray.
Okay, you're welcome, Jill. Thank you.